the Israeli colonial apartheid aggression on the innocent people of Gaza. Do you want me to turn it off?
Yes.
Yeah.
Out of mic is fine.
I'll try. I'll do
Yes,
my
yes.
I would like to express our deep appreciation and gratitude for attending to this important conference to shed light on the Israeli colonial power aggression on the people of Palestine, especially Gaza, who are really living since Saturday this week under the horrific and terror aggression from the Israeli apartheid. Allow me to introduce to you Her Excellency Ambassador Hanan Jarar, Ambassador of the State of Palestine, to brief you regarding the latest Palestinian development, especially on the war on Gaza. Thank you very much.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished members of the media, viewers and listeners. Thank you for joining us today as we shed light on the ongoing tragic Israeli genocidal war on the Palestinian civilians in Gaza. Situation and numbers. The recent violence that unfolded in Palestine and Israel over the past week has escalated to a critical point that threatens to engulf the entire region and draw the world into a major crisis of unparalleled proportions. The escalation started on the 7th of October, just a fraction of the daily hardships Palestinians have faced for 75 years under the Israeli occupation. We urge the international community to address the illness instead of symptoms. The Israeli occupation of Palestine is the real illness. The escalation from last Saturday is one symptom of this decades-long illness. Regrettably, since Saturday, the 7th of October, Israel admitted of dropping 6,000 bombs on Gaza, killing up to this minute 1,569 Palestinians, including 447 children and infants and 248 women, injuring more than 7,000 Palestinians, displacing more than 400,000 Palestinians who are sheltering now 92 schools of UNRWA. In this genocidal war, 7 journalists have lost their lives in the line of duty. For decades, Israel has been killing and dispossessing Palestinians silently, outside the gaze of international media and community. The pressing question arises: has any Israeli government representative been pressed to denounce these actions? Has the international community sought Israel's condemnation of settlement, expansion, or the ongoing Israeli occupation? These two are war crimes, but the world has been largely silent. During the past 16 years, Israel has launched 5 wars on Gaza, one of which lasted 51 days. Context of the Gaza blockade and occupation. The severity of this situation threatens to inflame the region and pose a risk on international peace and stability. The genocidal war is of such gravity that it demands the immediate attention and action of the international community. For 16 years, the over 2 million people of Gaza have been under siege by Israel and forced into what is considered the world's largest open-air prison. Israel has forced into what is considered, again, the world's largest open-air prison. Israel has dropped hundreds of tons of bombs on Gaza, causing extensive destructions to homes, infrastructure, schools, and healthcare facilities, accompanied by a startling admission. The emphasis is on damage, not on accuracy. Israel decided when there will be electricity, what food and medicine will be allowed in or will be denied to the local population, and who will be allowed to enter or exit the Palestinian territory. Currently, the occupied Gaza Strip is facing a major humanitarian catastrophe, with Israel cutting off food supplies, electricity, and water, and restricting entry of relief materials. This dangerous situation has been worsened by an increasingly far-right Israeli government with expansionist ambitions, which has kept the situation on the brink of a crisis for some time. Israeli Finance Minister Smotrich himself is a fascist and a settler, stated prior to the recent eruption of violence that Palestinians had three choices: to leave, accept a life of subjugation to the Israelis, or face the rebel of dying. Both Smotrich and the Israeli Minister of National Security, Itamar Ben-Gvir, have consistently expressed their intent to annex the West Bank. The message conveyed to Palestinians is unmistakable. There is no viable path to a political resolution. 30 years ago, the Palestinians signed a peace accord, the Oslo Accord, with Israel in good faith, as a deal to pursue negotiations for peace and a viable Palestinian state. Since then, the process of negotiations have been halted, and the number of Israeli settlers illegally occupying settlements in the Palestinian land has quadrupled. Palestinians have been left with the choice of either accepting the apartheid existence as second-class citizens or assert their legal right to resist an unlawful occupation. This right to resistance is firmly grounded in international law and international humanitarian law, and linked to the principle of self-determination, which gains prominence in situations of colonial domination, foreign occupation, and oppressive regimes that deprived a segment of the population of political participation. This includes armed resistance, reflecting the current scale of resistance against Israel's illegal occupation of the Palestinian land. International community and apartheid. The international community's inconsistent approach to the occupation is evident, which, with a lack of consequences for crimes against humanity committed by apartheid Israel. Over 17 Israeli rights organizations have reported that Israel's actions in the West Bank meet the criteria of apartheid as defined in international law. Apartheid is the root of the problem and the cause of the illness that we urge the international community to address, instead of dealing with the symptoms every now and then. History is repeating itself, and those who remain silent about these ongoing crimes are part of the problem. In South Africa, the problem was not that some members of the liberation movement choose armed resistance. The problem was apartheid itself. That should also be the case for Palestinians. The international community has an obligation to ask the big questions, to address the root cause, instead of reverting to simplest statements that demonize, dehumanize, or dismiss Palestinians' lives and rights and treat only the symptoms of this prolonged injustice. The only way to stop the bloodshed and to open a path for genuine peace and security is by ending the Israeli occupation to the Palestinian territory and pursuing justice for Palestinian civilians. Reprisal against civilians in armed hostilities is illegal under international law. So is reprisal against persons or property of protected civilians. Collective penalties and punishments of protected civilians are likewise prohibited. Statements by Israeli leaders, including the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, threatening and boasting of attacks against civilian neighborhoods are a clear resort to such unlawful reprisals. The current Israeli leadership shows no intention of negotiating an end to the apartheid regime. The recent events have demonstrated that a military solution will not bring lasting peace. A sustainable peace can only be achieved through a political solution based on freedom, equality, and the end of the apartheid, siege, and occupation. The way forward. It is in Israel's national interest to seek a genuine and viable peace with the Palestinians. As long as the Palestinian people are denied their rights and treated as lesser human beings in their own homeland, there will be no lasting peace and stability in the region or in the world. As such, the international community is obliged to provide international protection for the Palestinian people. We demand the immediate cessation of Israel's illegal colonial occupation and its discriminatory apartheid practices against the Palestinian people. We stand in full support of all international initiatives aimed to establishing a political framework that secures the rights of the Palestinian people, including their right to self-determination, and guarantees the sovereignty of the viable Palestinian state. This is a crucial step toward achieving a lasting and secure peace in the region. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, the tragic developments we witness today are a call to action for the Western world to address the state of apartheid in the occupied Palestinian territory, just as they realized the need to do so in South Africa. We urge the international community to act decisively to bring about a peaceful and just resolution to this long-standing occupation. Unified support from South Africa. In closing, ladies and gentlemen, we are grateful and thankful to the South African government, faith groups, numerous South African political parties such as ANC, SACP, Al-Jama'ah, and the Economic Freedom Fighters, as well as various solidarity organizations, including Africa for Palestine, Al-Quds Foundation, Jama'at al-Ummah, Palestine Solidarity Alliance, Palestine Solidarity Campaign, Muslim Judicial Council of South Africa, the South African BDS Coalition, the COSATO, and the National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa, NUMSA, among others, who have issued resounding statements in unwavering support of Palestine. Their expressions of solidarity are deeply and highly appreciated, representing a powerful alignment of values that encompasses justice, the right of nations to self-determination, and the fundamental respect for human rights. These shared principles resonate strongly with both the Palestinian and the South African struggles. We urge the international community to follow suit. Thank you so much for your attention. I'm now ready to take any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate your questions. Any question? Ladies first. Let's start with ladies, yeah.
Okay, I am Lulu Vuyo from RT, Russia Today. I have two questions.
The first one is, how do you feel about the methods that have been used by Hamas in its struggle against Israel? And then secondly, can their actions be justified by the fight against colonialism? And then maybe just lastly, how can African countries influence the situation to bring the conflict to an end?
Second question.
Hi, good day, Ambassador. It's Kaya here from SABC News. I just want to understand you say it's a humanitarian catastrophe facing Gaza. How severe is the situation, especially with a total siege where there's no access in terms of letting any aid to go through? And also maybe just to get your reaction, Ambassador, in light of now the Israeli authorities talking about the second phase of their operation, the groundwork that they will be undertaking. So what do you make of that? Thank you so much.
Third question.
Your Excellency, my name is Salah and I'm from Salam Media. So we've been closely following the catastrophe that has been happening in Gaza, and we have been engaging with a lot of activists who are in Palestine. And the dominant message that's coming through is that the Palestinian army's condemnation of the onslaught in Gaza is hollow, and it's very hypocritical because there isn't much, I can say, boots on the ground, to try and protect the citizens of Palestine. So we want to know, are there enough resources from the PA side, because we know there's a distinction between the PA and Hamas. So is the PA doing their bit, or they're just paying lip service to that issue? And then secondly, what has been your your thoughts on how the South African media has been reporting on the situation in Gaza? Are you satisfied with how we're reporting on the news, and how can we differently report it to how we're doing it right now? Thank you.
We will take the second round of questions after I'm here, Excellency, I'm set to answer the question, the three questions. Please.
Thank you so much for your questions, which shows your interest in knowing more. Hopefully that we will be successful in portraying what's going on really on the ground. Because as I mentioned and as I started, what's going on right now is not a war. It's a genocidal war committed by the occupying power, Israel, against the people under the occupation, the Palestinian people. So I will start by the RT question about how do we feel about the actions that are done by Hamas. Hamas is a political faction, and they are freedom fighters considered by the Palestinian people. And according to international law, the First Protocol of Geneva Fourth Convention 1949, and two other resolutions of the United Nations and Security Council, resistance and self-defense are guaranteed in all means possible for the people under occupation until they reach their own full independence. So it's not how is my reaction. It's the international law and international humanitarian law who guaranteed and secured that any political faction or any political party that is under occupation has the right to use all the methods or instruments available to free their people. This is one thing. And we feel that any kind of loss in human beings, of civilians, is something that we regret. As Palestinians, we have been, since the establishment of the Palestine Liberation Organization, we have been considered as an ethical and principled revolution. We will not resort to violence unless we have been subjected to aggression and oppression. And since 1948, we have been, as a population, subjected to Israeli occupation practices, hostilities against our people. Despite these facts, we never resort to killing civilians or innocent people. On the contrary, in 1994, we resort to peace, and we abandoned 70–80% of historical and mandatory Palestine for the sake of engaging into the peace process. Unfortunately, since Oslo Accord up to this moment, 30 years, Israel never has the serious intention to engage into a peace process. And we have millions of examples for this. The number of Israeli settlements when we engage in the peace process was 100,000 Israeli settlers in West Bank and Gaza. Now the number is more than 800,000 Israeli settlers living inside the occupied Palestinian territory. So we can see both settlements are illegal under international law. Settlers are citizens who choose to live in these areas in clear violation for international law. So this is the situation. We cannot blame Palestinians for their reactions as long as their reaction is guaranteed by the international law with the objective of establishing their own independent state and helping them to self-determination as all nations around the world. As for the question from SABC, how severe the situation is on the ground, as I mentioned in the brief, up to this moment, Israel has admitted that it has bombed, it has sent 6,000 bombs. The targets, the Israeli government says that the targets are military of Hamas. Unfortunately, this is a lie, and all the footage coming from Gaza and coming from the area shows that the bombing, targeting residential places, targeting civilians, targeting schools, hospitals, ambulances, journalists. So it's a blind shelling against the Palestinian people. More than 400,000 Palestinians have been displaced from their homes and pushed to shelter into UNRWA schools. There are more than 92 UNRWA schools that are fully capacitated. In a genocidal statement by the Minister of Defense of Israel, he said that starting yesterday, there will be complete cut of food supplies, electricity, and water to Gaza. Unfortunately, this led to a catastrophe in the medical facilities, because as of this day, there will be even no fuel to generate electricity. The hospitals are overcapacitated all over Gaza. The only way to Gaza, which is Rafah crossing border, was bombed in a sign for the Egyptian authorities not to enter any kind of humanitarian relief materials to Gaza. The only passage that is open and the only message that the Palestinians in Gaza are receiving right now is that you need to move from your areas and to go to a more peaceful area. This is a genocidal call by the Israeli government that opens the road for transfer. And this is what the Israeli government is trying to do by this genocidal war, to show Palestinians in Gaza that you have only two options, either to die or to be transferred from your land. And this is the real fear of the Palestinians, because we have an experience in 1948 when Israel did this. Palestinians scattered in refuge all over the world, and they are still scattered in refuge all over the world up to this minute. In 1948, 700,000 Palestinians were uprooted from their homeland, and they are becoming now 7 million Palestinians still outside Palestine in refuge without the access to go to their homeland. So Palestinians are afraid of this, but still they believe that they will not leave because they have been trying the refuge long time ago, and they will not repeat the catastrophe of the 1948. This is the situation on the ground, unfortunately. Also, we need to highlight the fact that Israel has been using white phosphorus, bombing certain areas in Gaza. And these kind of weapons that has been given to Israel by the United States are considered internationally prohibited. So you can have an idea about what's going on. It's a genocide. ethnic cleansing, and there is no other words that can describe the situation right now. World Health Organization launched an appeal today, asked to open peaceful corridor or a safe corridor, at least to help facilitate the entrance of medical equipments or medication that is needed. Because as I mentioned, there is no electricity, fuel will be run out by the hours of the noon, and medication is out of the hospitals due to the large numbers of injured and killed people. Even people in Palestine, in Gaza right now, they have no place, no time to bury the corpses that are in the fridges in the hospitals. Unfortunately, I have to state this because this is the current situation. It's a catastrophe, humanitarian catastrophe by all means. As for Salam Media and your question about the relation, in testing times and in war times, none of us or none of the Palestinian political faction is busy discussing what they can offer to others. In testing times, Palestine is one, and the message is one. We are in one boat against the Israeli aggression against the Palestinian people. There is no Fatah, there is no Hamas, there is no Palestinian Authority. There is Palestine Liberation Organization that stands in one line confronting the biggest enemy for the Palestinian people. This is our position. Definitely, as I mentioned yesterday, there has been meetings. President Abbas met King Abdullah and met Anthony Blinken, and a lot of international mediations, let's say, are taking place right now to try at least to limit the numbers of victims from the Palestinian side. As for South Africa, we cannot ask more. We do believe that the position of South Africa is, as always, was the unwavering support for the Palestinian people. Everyone on the ground or in the government or political parties or parliamentarian members, I received thousands of calls. My colleagues here also in the embassy are receiving thousands of calls. Again, statements are issued since the first day of the war. We do believe that South Africa is doing what it has to do, because our relationship with South Africa is not new, and it didn't start since 1948 after the democratic transformation. It started long time ago when the PLO was side by side with the ANC, when the ANC was labeled at that time as a terrorist party. So we are working in close relation and close cooperation and in close collaboration with the South African government and with the South African players on the ground, let's say. And we hope that there might be like genuine efforts from South Africa to support Palestine on the international arena.
The second round of the questions.
Mashudu Sadiqa from Independent Media. I think you might have answered this one, but just for good measure. What is the relationship between the Palestinian government and Hamas? One question. The other one is, are you having statements like such as this one in embassies across the world, or is it specifically South Africa?
Second question.
Sophie from the SABC. I just want to find out, there are reports that there are South Africans who are caught in a crossfire, and reports are that 2 South Africans have died. Do you have any information? Are you communicating with DEPO? And if that's the case...
South African, you mean in Gaza?
Yes. South African citizens in Gaza or in that conflict.
Yeah.
Who are caught in a crossfire and they've perished. Do you have any information?
Third question. My brother.
Turkey gets representing Turkish. Madam Ambassador, my question is not about the political question, just on the military strategy. So what is the Hamas military strategy? Over the 3 decades, since my childhood, but I saw the Hamas is firing the rockets, and the civilian is facing the airstrike. Israel is the one of the powerful military forces in this region. So what is the Hamas strategy and the millions of people facing that genocide?
Kaya.
Lovely. Kai again here from SABC. Ambassador, I just want to know about this 24-hour deadline. What's going to be your strategy? You know, are you getting any just indication as to what's going to happen in terms of like a fight-back strategy with, you know, the indication that has been given by the Israeli authorities? Thank you.
Madam Ambassador.
Thank you. As for the situation on or the relationship between the PA and Hamas, as I mentioned, like the PA is the official government of the state of Palestine, and they are the official representatives. Now, Hamas is a political faction, and the relationship, and Hamas is like a part, genuine part of the Palestinian political factions. We have like Fatah, we have Hamas, we have other leftist groups, so they are part. Within the situation in Gaza, as I mentioned before, and the split between Fatah and Hamas, or like some people fault, they believe that the PA is Fatah. The PA is not Fatah. The PA is the Palestinian representative of the Palestinian people inside Palestine. They are the head of the government. So this is, I think this is another dimension that we should look at, but in a different context. Because as I mentioned, now everyone in the same boat. We are facing a genocidal war committed by Israel against the civilians. We are both in West Bank, as I mentioned, because since the beginning of this year, the ultra-right-wing government has been threatening everyone. In Gaza, in West Bank, killing Palestinians, no discrimination, whether they belong to Fatah, whether they belong to Hamas, whether they belong to West Bank, or whether they belong to Gaza. Like every Palestinian is a target for the Israeli ultra-right-wing government, and this is very obvious. Since the beginning of the year, the ultra-right-wing government has killed more than 300 Palestinians in West Bank alone, raiding cities. Their ministers have been launching different assaults against the Palestinian people, and this is the situation. Now we don't have any kind of split or disagreement between the two, because we are both facing one enemy, which is the Israeli genocidal war and the Israeli ultra-right-wing government that its target is the Palestinian people, regardless of their affiliations. As of the statements, definitely each of our embassies are working full capacity nowadays to face the Israeli genocide that is taking place against our people. Every area of the world has its own specialty, and every area of the world has its own characteristics, and each embassy has its own instrument. Like we have the freedom here in South Africa to address you and to talk and to go to TV, and the environment is very friendly and very welcoming. In other countries like Europe, for example, the environment is hostile. Our ambassadors, they don't have the leverage to go to address the media, to talk to people. In Germany, and in Germany there has been they warn, and there is a kind of let's say they forbid any citizen of holding the Palestinian flag in the streets. They are forbidding also demonstrations. So it varies from one place into another depending on the relationship with Palestine. As a question about if we have information, to be honest, I don't have information from official resources. My colleagues just informed me that there are 2 South African kills in Israel-Palestine conflict. This is by DERCO. As for me, I have been in contact with the South African ambassador in Ramallah, and he didn't mention anything in this regard. But maybe the mission in Tel Aviv will have more information, since maybe this has been. I'm sorry, I don't have information to apply for.
كانوا بيتواصلوا مع الجنوب الافريقي بالفلسطينيين
أها.
بيسألوا عنها.
But our information that there is a lot of Palestinian, South African of Palestinian dissidents. They are in Gaza right now, and they were asking. Even one of our citizens has sent like a voice note describing the situation in Gaza. This is our information. But you know, when wars are taking place, genocidal wars like Israelis, that there is no clear targets. Everyone is a target. It is difficult, especially now with the cut of electricity. There is no internet services. Gaza is like really becoming an open-air prison that is isolated from the entire world. And the coming of information or the source of information, sometimes it's blocked. So as for this is what the information that I have that I can respond. As for the strategy for Hamas, well, this is a difficult question because first of all, I'm not that close. We're not that close. We don't know. And Hamas, by the way, is a very secretive, and they don't disclose information about their strategy. It's difficult to know. It's difficult. But I can guarantee to you one strategy or one objective is to liberate Palestine. This is the only objective. As for strategy, I have no idea about how do they act, or the whole world was surprised of the action that has been taken on Saturday, including the Israeli side, which are well known for their high alert. So this is the information that we have. And Kaya, can you please repeat the question? Because I didn't manage to.
I just wanted to know that from the Palestinians, are they going to comply with this 24-hour directive from the Israeli authorities to move away from North Gaza to the other side? And maybe just any counter strategy in light of what is going on.
Well, there has been like tens of calls by the Israeli side for Palestinians to leave the northern side and to go to the southern side, which is Sinai, mainly go towards Egypt. I don't believe that Palestinians are in the state to do so. We do believe that we have learned from the past, as I mentioned before, and Palestinians will not leave their homeland now for any other part, especially under the directive of the Israeli occupation forces. The situation on the ground is very difficult. I have messages from my friends in Gaza says that up to this moment, in 1 week, they have been traveling from, or they have been moving from one house that it was characterized as safe to another house, and then move from that house to another house, moving different houses, different places. It's a war, and it's not an easy war because bombing and shelling is blindly targeting every Palestinian moving. Thank you.
The last round of the questions. Last round. Any question? SABC? Any question here? SABC?
Yeah, no, I just want to find out, in terms of the way forward, this is a long-standing conflict.
Yeah.
The international community is having fatigue because clearly there's no light at the end of the tunnel. And with this situation now, it is even more difficult. You also have a war in Ukraine at a time when Security Council is very paralyzed. So in relation to the UN resolutions that perhaps countries can lobby that they be implemented, the two-state solution, is it still an option? Is it still relevant when you look at what Israel has said and the fact that they say people must move out, and clearly we know coming back is going to be a problem. What's happening? Where to? What does the future hold for the Middle East question? And perhaps which country can be better placed to play a mediation Egyptian role, because the big countries are conflated, and also, yeah, there are issues they couldn't even resolve, the war in Ukraine.
Thank you very much. The second question.
Tabiso Goba from IBC News. Ambassador, I understand that you've also mentioned there's been great support from the ruling party, the ANC. But I don't know if maybe I missed it. I just want to understand what has been sort of your relationship with the South African government. I attended the picket that was at the US consulate, and I think someone from the ANC Veterans League called for government to expel the Israeli ambassador. So I just want to understand, what has been the relationship between Palestine and the South African government, and do you think that the actions taken by the South African government have been appropriate, and do you think maybe they can do more in terms of showing its solidarity with Palestine in this issue?
Last question.
From Salam Media. Just want to reiterate what my colleague has said about the two-state solution. Now that Israel has dropped its pretense about a peace deal, is the government going to hold on to the to the failures of the Oslo Accord?
Last question.
This was the last.
Turkmen. This is the last ambassador. That was the same question. Yes, please, Turkmen.
Yeah, the situation is increasingly being a genocide discussed, and Israel in violation of Geneva Convention and international humanitarian law. Why are countries not condemning? For
Why?
instance, why are the countries not condemning this situation? For instance, South Africa, I think, not condemning it. For instance, yeah.
Thank you, Ambassador.
Yes, thank you. As for the international community and the way forward, and if the two-state solution is still a viable solution, so it's like the two questions. As the way forward is only one thing. We have to end the Israeli occupation for Palestine. That's why we engage into the peace process in 1993. Unfortunately, the peace broker for the whole process is the United States of America. And now we can see the position of the United States of America is like very biased. You cannot rely on it. Biden, in 3 days, he have been on TV for 5 times, asserting the right of Israel to defend itself against Palestinian civilians and Palestinian freedom fighters, sending military equipment, sending weapons in support, sending his Minister of Foreign Affairs, Blinken, which is, before he landed, he announced that he's not coming here as the Secretary of State, he's coming here in his capacity as a Jewish and a Zionist supporting the Jewish people. So we can see where is the biggest broker for the peace process stands. Of course, it is followed by the Western countries. Today, the High Commissioner of EU is arriving to Israel to show solidarity. In the coming 2 days, 5 ministers of foreign affairs from Europe are going to Israel to support Israel. So we can see the international hypocrisy in dealing with the two sides. Unfortunately, it is the hand of the international community, not only in our hands. We did all what is needed from our side to reach to a peaceful solution. We engage in the peace process. We always ask for direct negotiations. We always abide by the international community requirements. We did everything that we can do. The Israelis, they are unfortunately 14 years of government of Netanyahu in government. They changed the Israeli community or the Israeli society from normal society into ultra-right fanatic society. And now we are having the most ultra-right government in the history of Israel. They don't want to negotiate. They don't want to see a Palestinian state. They don't want to listen to the international community or to the UN Security Council resolutions or United Nations resolutions. So The only way is that now we might be start working on a group of countries, especially after the formulation of the new BRICS, let's say. Maybe we will have like the rise, or we can witness another international front that might be more affiliated with the Palestinian people's rights and aspirations, and maybe we can work on this. Nothing is clear up to this moment, but the only way forward is that we need to find a solution to end the Israeli occupation, to end the Israeli apartheid regime. This is the only way forward. Otherwise, we will be always going into this vicious cycle of violence and of wars. And unfortunately, it's always the Palestinian blood that is on the table. Like every 2 years, we have a war. Every 2 years, we have thousands of Palestinians killed for the sake of agenda. Once it's the agenda of the Israeli elections, the other time now it's the agenda of the US elections. Unfortunately, this is the situation, and we are doing whatever we can do. Remember that we are Palestinians, 7 million inside, 7 million outside. We fight not only Israel, we fight Israel backed up by the Western, the US, and most of the world, unfortunately. As the relation between the government of South Africa and the government of Palestine, we have a very good relation, and we are doing every possible arrangement to make this relation even stronger and to support us. There is something I would love to say, that on the eve of the war against Gaza, on last Friday night, I was in the airport saying goodbye to Minister Bandor. She was heading to Palestine in an official visit that lasts for 3 days, and we were about to inaugurate the first Palestinian Joint Commission between Palestine and South Africa. Unfortunately, she had to cancel the visit and to return back from Dubai due to the escalation, due to the events. We have a lot of commitment, we have a lot of engagement with the South African government on different levels, and we are looking forward even to increase this engagement for the sake of finding a solution. Because as I mentioned, the relationship or the experience between what's going in Palestine right now and what has been going on during the apartheid regime in South Africa is very fresh and is very relevant, and it's the same. And it was the international solidarity with South Africa that brought the apartheid regime down, and we count on this, and we try to always work with South African government on this level. As for the condemnation, we do believe that it's not only South Africa who condemned the war. It's also like many other African countries like Namibia, Zimbabwe, Botswana. This is as far as the area that I know. Definitely the rest, Latin America also, they issued a lot of statements in condemnation with what's going on in solidarity with the Palestinian right. Still, the international community, the rest is hypocrite. And when Europe is very clear the situation, when it comes to Russia and Ukraine, Ukrainians have the right to defend themselves and to use whatever is needed to fight against their occupier. When it comes to Palestine, they don't recognize this, and they stand beside the Israeli government all the time. As for the two-state solution, whether it's still viable, the two-state solution is not viable for Palestinians. It's dead long time ago and buried long time ago. What makes it relevant always is that it is the only solution that is still backed by the international community up to this moment. And as Palestinians, as a small country, we are seeking our self-determination and seeking our independent state, as long as we don't have alternative that is backed by the international community and is put on the table and is supported by the international community. We cannot move forward. All what we have to do is what we are doing right now, is to stay in our homeland, not to leave, strong, resilient, and the international community is supporting our resilience in our homeland. Not to leave is the only viable solution that we have till now, until we have another solution that come and alternate the two-state solution. But for us, it's not viable because on the ground there is no. Palestinians are suffocated into small bantustans. You need a permit to go from one place into another. You have no access to your health facilities, to schools, to lands, to any way of normal life. Your land is grabbed on daily basis for the sake of an expansionist settlement project. The Israelis are raiding Palestinians' homes and towns and cities on daily basis, killing our people. More than 6,000 Palestinians are still in the Israeli jails. Like a lot of complications to materialize a viable Palestinian state. But as long as it is the only solution that is still on the table, backed by the international community, then we have to deal with it. But on the ground, it's dead, definitely dead.
Thank you, Ambassador. With the last answer from the Ambassador, we closing our press conference for today, and you are most welcome to interact directly with Madam Ambassador through my colleague, the media personnel, Rabi Ramu Silan. Yeah, thank you very much for attending our conference, and also as a Palestinian, we looking for more support from your side to expose the aggression and oppression of the Israelis. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's good. Hi, how are you?
Maybe a copy of your notes available, or can I take a photo?
On 100 pot gieten.